Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We hope that everybody out there through this COVID-19 pandemic is staying safe and healthy. So today we'll be covering two technologies, Aeroseal and AeroBarrier, going over kind of the benefits, how it looks, and how it might implement and be used in today's crisis. This webinar will be recorded and sent to you guys all after the presentation. Feel free to submit any questions throughout the presentation, and there will be a Q&A. So without further ado, I will welcome Jared Scott to talk Aeroseal.
Good morning, everybody. Jared Scott, the Director of Sales for Aeroseal. So we're going to cover here a few items. Here's the outline for today. We'll talk about what Aeroseal is. If you've not heard about it, I'll give a good explanation of what it is. We'll talk about what the Aeroseal process is. So this will be in residential applications, so both on new construction and existing homes. Talk about the value to homeowners and the dealer partner success, or the value to our dealers. And then also on the back end here on how we support our dealer family. At that point, then I'll transition it over to Paul Springer, and he'll talk about AeroBarrier. So real quick, covering here a timeline. Looking here at 1994, this is when Aeroseal was invented. It was patented in 1996. And 1997 is when the first contractors started coming on board as Aeroseal dealers. Just giving you a little bit of an idea here of what Aeroseal is before we jump past that and how that carries into the other technology in AeroBarrier. But it's a vinyl acetate polymer or material that's suspended in water. What the equipment does is it atomizes the sealant and deposits it in the ductwork at those leak points. So the inventor of this, was at Lawrence Berkeley National Labs and along with the Department of Energy. In fact, in 2000, the Department of Energy awarded Aeroseal as the best scientific and technological accomplishments to come in the 23 years of existence of the Department of Energy. So I know that feels like I'm patting us on the back, but it's something that the Department of Energy really looks at as their involvement and something that really can change the quality of life and comfort across the U.S. and beyond. So jump in here to the next slide. So a lot of the problems that are caused from leaky ducts, several of them listed here. So the top one here, the uneven temperatures in the home, hot and cold spots, and fighting over the thermostats. And that fighting over the thermostat may or may not be exaggerated depending on the condition of the home. But to homeowners, they do have rooms or areas that heat and cool differently depending on how much air loss occurs along the way. So according to the Department of Energy, by the way, it's typical that 10 to 40% of the conditioned air is leaking out of the ductwork on its way to the register. So if you think about that on a 3-ton air conditioner system, it's going to be a loss of about 1 ton of cooling capacity. Additionally to the loss of conditioned air, the HVAC system could be adding humidity to the equation, raising it over the target of that 30 to 50% in the home. And that added humidity does 2 things. One, it makes the occupants very uncomfortable, but the other thing is it does make the system work harder as well. Next here is low air quality or dirty air, allergens and contaminants. And, especially right now, I don't know how many homeowners have thought about it, but in conditions with bacteria and viruses and things like that, the HVAC system can become a distribution system for that stuff. But there's ways with overall that junky air that's being circulated or recirculated throughout the home. There's actually ways to help make sure that it's pulling the best air possible or recirculating the best air possible. So, and without getting into the building science point of it too much, if homes are under negative pressure, it can cause that higher than normal concentration of the things that we really want to keep out, right? The next point here with the realized annual savings of up to $850 per year in heating and cooling bills. And this is an average. We pull it from some of the seal data that we have. That's going to depend a little bit on the home itself and the energy cost in that region. But this is something that we provide to our dealers as an idea of what a return on investment would be. But the big thing that homeowners are realizing, they're wasting money, right? So wasted energy, wasted conditioned air, that's money, and utility bills are already high enough. So again, adding on to that, though, the equipment will often need to run longer because of the comfort issues that are in the home. So when they're cranking up or down that thermostat setting and trying to get that air or the temperature in the space perfect, they're actually compounding the waste of energy here. So, and that goes into the next point here. They're going to get the most out of their system. So even on new system installs, the efficiency ratings there, we'll get into it a little bit later, but with leaky ducts, they're not performing to the efficiency level that they're rated at, and it may cause for premature system failure. There we go. A little bit on the Aeroseal process itself, okay? So we'll, the contractors would go into the home, they're gonna block the registers with closed cell foam sheets and isolate the equipment. They're gonna prep the home and set up an air scrubber fan, and this is in an existing home situation. In new construction, it's not necessary to do that, but the pre-seal test is going to be performed on the next step. And this is basically going to be a duct blaster test that is going to show what the duct efficiency is at the starting point. Next, they're going to seal using the Homeseal Connect wireless duct sealing system. And it's going to be all controlled from the laptop that comes with the Homeseal Connect system and the software that's been developed to work with that and to do everything from the pre-seal to the seal, and then the post-seal test performed. That's going to give a certificate of completion at the end that shows what was accomplished, and then also the automated system maintenance step here is going to be performed, where it flushes that sealant out of the supply line of the sealant tube. And then it's breaking down the job and cleaning up. So you can see down here on the bottom left, the before picture, and the bottom right after. You see the sealant is just actually going to be accumulated or deposited right at that leak point. There's a common misconception for a lot of people that Aeroseal does not encapsulate the duct. Okay, so it's not going to be an encapsulant where it lines the ductwork with a lot of material or a lot of sealant. It's just going to the leak points. So the way that we conduct that sealant material to the injection point, you'll see the Aeroseal system here. The laptop is actually, it shows wires going to it. It is wireless. The lay flat tubing, or that plastic tube that comes off the front of that goes to the injection point on the duct system. And when all of this process is occurring, those aerosolized particles are going into the closed duct system where the equipment is isolated, and that's where it's doing its work and closing up the gaps. So a few value points here for homeowners. They're going to enjoy every room in their house. Okay, so it's going to even out the delivery of the conditioned air. So there's no more hard to heat or cool rooms and spaces. Secondly, here on the air quality side, it's going to be greatly reducing the deposition of dust all over the home. Sealing the returns is going to be getting the contaminants into the filter media where we hope to have it go. And really, aside from the first thing the homeowners recognize is the comfort. That's why we put that bullet point number one. The second thing that they notice is they don't have to dust as much. Third here, the realized the annual savings I mentioned earlier, the $850 for your heating and cooling bills. It can be up to 30% of a utility bill. So finally here, they're going to get the most out of their system, more air from the vents, and longer system life. So in new construction, this is where contractors have and builders have the ability to deliver greater value to the customers for comfort, air quality, and energy savings. The other thing is it's going to be more efficient than hand sealing with tape and mastic. And that's going to allow them to save on the labor allocation, so the number of people that are doing that work, and allow them to control the costs on it. And it's also going to help prevent warranty claims on comfort-related issues. So that's a big issue with when it comes to moisture condensation that can occur at leak points. It's very common on the sheet metal connectors where that air is escaping, and it will condensate, drip into, say, an attic somewhere. And that's we know where moisture and heat and all that, and dirt, that we know what that's going to be, that thing that propagates bacterial growth or mold growth, something organic that we absolutely don't like. So third here, on the computer controlled process, it tests and seals it simultaneously. That's the smart technology measures it's a smart technology, and it measures the duct leakage as it seals. It's a duct blaster. It's going to be able to show it in real time with certified results upon completion. So a number of, whether it's a code requirement here or an energy rebate program, and they want to see what was accomplished, many municipalities and utility programs accept this certificate that's a result of the seal at the end of the process, and they take that for for meeting the code or meeting the energy rebate program. Not all do. Some still want the third-party test, and that's fine. But this at least lets the technician know and the builder know that sealing or getting this sealed it's completed, and it's going to be able to move on here. Going to that last point here on the duct efficiency codes, they're only getting more and more strict. Many of those HVAC contractors and builders that are already using Aeroseal, they see that they're able to do it once and move on. There's no revisiting, no going back to the job site to try to find the leaks and try to get it sealed again. So on the dealer and partner success side here, I want to share with you because this is what our partners are seeing. Our dealer partners are seeing that it enables them to deliver a greater value for customers on home comfort, air quality, and energy savings. And they enjoy a competitive advantage by addressing issues that most don't. So what that means is if ductwork is in wall cavities, the only way to get to it, to seal it, is to do some level of demolition, and that's just not realistic, right? So by using Aeroseal, doesn't matter where the ducts are located, doesn't matter what duct material, whether it's sheet metal, duct board, flex duct. In some cases there's in slabs there's clay duct material. So it doesn't matter what that is, they're able to go in and address it. So it's going to be solving that the customer's comfort level for sure, but it gives a higher level of completion to the job. Next here on being the ductwork expert that homeowners need, it's going to ensure that the ductwork is airtight and that the system is going to operate as it should. So thinking about this, a new system install, depending on where you're at and what type material that what type of equipment that you're installing, it could be $8,000 up to $18,000. So the first thing that you want them when you do the install, you want them to be happy with it, happy with the result, happy feeling that they made the right decision, because it is somewhat of a difficult decision on when a homeowner ventures into finding a good contractor to work with. So this is one of those situations. Duct design is very important. The right sizing of the equipment is very important, and then ensuring that the duct is repaired because it does leak, and repairing it with Aeroseal gives that great result. The other thing here, the third, duct sealing has many benefits in every season. So this means that in winter, spring, summer, and fall, there's excellent gross profit potential for the contractors. This can be, leading with system installs. So it's a great time to talk about the inefficiency of ducts when you're in the home and replacing the equipment. But on service calls, it's equally important, because what you can do is you can add, if it's not already on there, but you add airflow as a check on the service checklist. And if the system is checked or system is charged and all the electronic components are verified to be working correctly, and you'd hate to leave the house saying, well, I know that you've got some comfort issues. I just checked everything and it's fine. Adding the airflow check to the service checklist is something that can definitely be done within a matter of minutes. It's not going to be a big change to the call, but it can identify some very severe duct leakage issues. Finally here, reducing callbacks that are related to comfort. It's a big deal. It's a big cost item for a lot of contractors, right? It hurts relationships as well if those comfort issues can't be resolved, and it adds to the inability to serve more customers in the market as well, because if you're going back on callback calls, that means you're not going out on new business calls. So just keeping that in mind, it can cause a little bit of an employee shortage or delay in other profit generating calls. So this slide here shows how Aeroseal complements these four and even more, but we'll cover these four. But with new equipment installs, I mentioned the efficiency rating. And what I hope to share here is with this chart, it's going to show the effect of duct leakage on HVAC equipment. So if you notice here that this 18 SEER system gives some varied degrees. So at 10% leakage at 15.2 effective SEER rating, at 20%, 12.5, and if it's 30% duct leakage, it's 9.7%. Or I'm sorry, 9.7 SEER rating at 30% leakage. So it degrades quite a bit. So the big thing here that I want to touch on is this green column here would indicate the ducts that are sealed to 2% or less, which is effectively what Aeroseal can provide. Okay, so to sum this up, what dealers are finding, they can actually provide homeowners with greater efficiencies at a lower cost. So a typical scenario might be this. They're going to install, they may currently be installing an 18 SEER system for say $14,000 without Aeroseal. And that's going to deliver an effective SEER rating between 12.5 and 9.7 SEER, okay? What they're finding though, when they come on board, they're able to provide a 14 SEER system with Aeroseal. So they're addressing the inefficiency of the duct system for around $12,500, and it provides the effective SEER rating of 13.5, which is higher than the 18 SEER. And what that means is it's going to save money on the front end. So it's going to enable them to be more competitive and when going up against other contractors. And it's going to save the homeowner ongoing by improving the overall solution's efficiency. Now, that's not to say don't sell high efficiency equipment. In fact, Aeroseal pairs very, very well with that as well. Sorry about that. If you think about it, the high efficiency equipment, you want to still provide that high level of efficiency for what the customer's paying for. So our contractors also see that on high efficiency equipment, they're able to pair Aeroseal very, very well with that. Next on here is duct cleaning. So we have, whether you're an HVAC contractor that does duct cleaning or a duct cleaner only, maybe with duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, carpet cleaning, whatever that is. But when a duct cleaning call comes in, contractors are finding that it's very, very easy to to say, sure, we want to talk to you about cleaning your ducts, but let's also talk about what might be the real problem. And that could be leaky ducts. We know that leaky ducts are going to pull in a lot of junk, and that junk is going to settle. It's just the effect of low airflow. By the way, on the return side, low airflow, where a lot of that dust settles, is going to be caused from leaks. So sealing on the return side and closing that up, it's definitely going to help with that. But that clean and seal approach makes for a nice bundle that gives a good full day revenue and profit opportunity as well. So on zone systems and IAQ systems or IAQ solutions, we have contractors that are offering options to address airflow and comfort, like on a zone system solution, and that can be about $8,000 on up, depending on the home and what's involved with it. But giving this as an example of presenting a good, better, or best approach to zoning means that there's going to be a greater chance of connecting on a solution that matches the homeowner's budgets and needs. So we know homeowners, like everyone, actually likes options, right? So using this example here, if it were an $11,000 zoning and Aeroseal combination, like that's a best case scenario where you're trying to fix the comfort issues. You're going to have the zone system, but you also want to take care of the duct deficiencies. As that's the best option. As a better option, maybe it's $8,500 for just the zone system. And then as a fallback, or if nothing else happens, $2,800 for just Aeroseal. What that means is that addressing what the budget needs might be of that homeowner, you're giving them levels of opportunity to be able to improve their comfort situation. So again, we're not saying don't sell zone equipment. We're saying that it really pairs and complements very well with it. And then on service calls, we talked a little bit about it with the checklist for HVAC contractors, and adding that adding that opportunity in there to pair with a solution that on airflow that can be uncovered. So we've got a few points here. I want to share how Aeroseal commits to their dealer partner success. Right? We have product training where we're gonna go over what our product actually does, but we're gonna get into even more so on the technical side of how it complements, how to position and sell it. That goes from CSRs that are answering the phones, service technicians that are in the field, comfort advisors that are putting together the solutions for new equipment installs and everything there. And then also on the marketing side, we have we'll also go over how to get up to speed and running quickly to the next point here, using resources from our sales and marketing toolbox. And that's an online resource. It's comprehensive plug and play material to really help you promote and sell Aeroseal. It's additionally here, you can put your own logo on it, or we can help with some of that. It goes from everything from a sell sheet to leave behinds when you're in the home, to when you're actually out in the field and completing Aeroseal jobs, yard signs, some door hangers, some direct mail pieces, something like that, whatever you want to tap into. We've done the creative part on it. It's really just about your desire to tap into it and leverage and use it. And then finally here on the dedicated customer service. So we have account managers that get assigned to your account when you come on board, and that's going to be the main point of contact there. But on the technical side, we also have 24-hour tech support. Something new that we've done for 2020 is tribes, where we are leveraging our network experience to help everyone learn from each other's successes, challenges, and implement new ideas from across our partner family. It's one of the best additions that we've done for this year. We've always had a really close network, but this kind of formalizes it, where we put like contractors together. So say the new construction contractors have a tribe or a group. We have retrofit or existing home contractors that are kind of regionally matched up. So you're talking about similar duct materials, similar home constructions, similar environments. So we have like we try to keep, say, the Houston area, right? So anywhere where there's high humidity areas, and that's one of the big things to overcome. That's a separate group, right? Which would be different than the Phoenix area. So we're very intentional on how we plan this out, and it really makes for a good experience. So if I can kind of sum up here, and I'll get ready to hand off to Paul. But if you want to screenshot or snip something from here, and we're certainly going to share this webinar afterwards. But this kind of sums up the points for new construction and existing homes. So meeting codes with no guesswork. That's one of the biggest points on new construction, right? You're trying to get to that 6% or 4%. On duct efficiency or duct loss. That's where Aeroseal can work its magic, right? And it's no guesswork. It's done with the certificate, and you're moving on to the next job successfully. It helps to maximize the job efficiency. No expensive failures or delays, meaning moving on to the next job with hand sealing and finding out that you didn't pass and have to go back. And then reducing warranty claims due to comfort issues. This is something, a new homeowner taking occupancy, 3 months in and is calling saying there's, the upstairs bedroom is just too hot. Sealing with Aeroseal is going to reduce or nearly eliminate that. On the existing home side, fixing duct leaks that affect the customer's comfort, air quality, energy savings, those 3 things. And in fact, I believe Aeroseal it's really the only thing that you can that helps with all of that. There are other items that you can help. You can install a second system or a ductless system. You can install some air quality products, and you can do some different things to help with thermostats to save energy. But some of those items are only hitting 1 or 2 of those aspects. They don't hit all 3. So it's very interesting. It's something that Aeroseal can really help with. Being the duct expert, fix what others won't even attempt, that competitive advantage where you've got something that you can really leverage and talk about that's going to help when other contractors have to walk away. Finding more opportunities in your market. It doesn't require the weather. We know that would be great to keep our technicians busy year round. Aeroseal is a great answer for that. And then also reducing the callbacks on installs and service calls. That's a huge cost factor, and it absolutely can help with that. So summarizing real quick here, or closing out this summary, I want to thank you. We'll have some questions at the end, and I will get this over to Paul Springer to talk more about AeroBarrier.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the afternoon here to spend some time with us. I'd like to spend a little bit of time just getting you up to speed on AeroBarrier. As Jared went through earlier, Aeroseal itself has been around for over 20 years, right? Over the last 7 or so, we have been working to kind of adapt that technology that we've been using in the duct system and bring it to AeroBarrier and bring it to the whole home. So in 2016, we patented that technology. 2018, we actually commercialized it and launched it. Excuse me. Since then, we have won quite a few industry awards, a lot of international builder show awards, and we've been getting a lot of good awareness and general interest in the technology. So when we think about air sealing a home, there's really, and we think about the builder, there's really 4 main benefits, 4 main risk management strategies that builders need to be aware of, right? Bulk moisture should be the first one. Obviously, any type of standing water, bulk water, will deteriorate a building faster than anything else. But in my mind, 1B is really airflow control, and that's air sealing. When you think of airflow control, it's typically done with a blower door, and you're measuring the ACH of the leakage of a structure. And that's a good measure for energy efficiency and comfort in the home. But airflow control also has an impact on thermal control and moisture and vapor control. So when you think about the 4 main control layers for any building or any builder that should be considered, air sealing actually has an impact on 3 out of 4. So we're going to get into some of these here, but when you think of thermal control, when you think of insulation in a house, any type of fibrous insulation gets its R value by trapping air in between the fibers. So whether that's fiberglass or some type of blown-in insulation, the insulation value is created by trapping air, similar to a down jacket, right? So if you have air moving through that wall system, it's actually going to deteriorate the R value of that insulation, causing that insulation not to perform as you would expect. So sealing that structure is actually going to give you the R value that is expected, the R value that the customer pays for in the insulation in the wall system. So as we get through the benefits of air leakage, most people go to energy savings, right? Heating and cooling. And that's a great benefit for the homeowner. And it is very true that as you seal the house, you're going to reduce the cost associated with heating and cooling that space. Homeowners are going to enjoy a more comfortable home with fewer drafts. It's going to help prevent moisture from entering the wall system. And here on the next slide, we'll get into that a little bit more. But it's also going to diminish outside noise. It's going to defend against pests and overall improve the indoor air quality of that space. Now, most of these benefits do go to the homeowner, right? The person that's going to have occupancy of this house receives most of the benefits for this. The one benefit that is really important for the builder or the person building the home is to help prevent moisture from entering the wall system. You know, we talked about one of the building science control layers being vapor and moisture management. With that, when you think about diffusion and air leakage, all things are going to diffuse water or moisture at some level, right? So you take a standard sheet of drywall or gypsum, over the course of a month, it's going to diffuse roughly a quart of water during that time period, right? It's just science. It's just the way it's going to happen no matter what you do, right? If you were to cut just a 1 square inch hole into that wall system, 30 quarts of water are going to enter that wall system through the air leakage, meaning air is carrying moisture into that wall system to the tune of 30 quarts of water. When you think of 3 ACH, or 5 ACH, which is an IECC requirement for air leakage, that 1 inch hole becomes significantly larger, up to the size of an open window. And when you start doing the math and adding that up, that's a significant amount of moisture that could be getting into the wall system. So, you know, a lot of people think of air sealing for energy efficiency and indoor air comfort and indoor air quality, but it's also really, really important for moisture and vapor management. If this moisture gets into the wall system and hits the point of condensation and becomes solid water, that leads to mold and structural issues, and a lot of concerns can come from that moisture getting into the wall system. So why don't more people do air sealing effectively? Why isn't it more of a focus? What are the challenges of doing it? And as we work through this, you'll see that there's a lot of trades involved. The framer, the plumber, the HVAC contractor, anybody that's putting a hole into that structure has a hand in creating a tighter building envelope. Unfortunately, there's not typically one trade that's tasked to do that. The site superintendent is often left to manage that outcome and hope that if the blower door is required at the end, that they're going to pass it. The other piece of this is many materials are involved, from caulks and gaskets to tapes and membranes. There's a lot of options that people can use, and trying to figure out what the right combination can always be a challenge. The other piece of this is you have to know where to seal. You know, 10, 20 years ago, the houses we are building are a little bit different than what we are building today. Some of the roof lines and crazy architectural details that we have in the market today make it extremely difficult to air seal. Not only, you know, it's gone from a square box to a roof with 20 different peaks and all these different custom custom features that you then have to air seal. So knowing where to seal is part of it, but also being able to get to the area that needs to be sealed is another challenge. The other two are unpredictable results, and getting it right matters. Most tests today are done at the end of construction. So knowing that you're going to pass a blower door test or meet the requirements, or even just meet the expectations that were set, or the spec that was set so that the mechanical system operates effectively, can be a challenge because the results aren't known until the end. And really getting it right matters. Jared was talking about the mechanical system and that equipment operating effectively. Duct leakage is a piece of that, but so is envelope leakage. If your house is leaking more than it's expected to leak, that mechanical system is not going to work as operated, or it's going to need to be upsized to the point that it's perceived to be operating efficiently. The other piece of that is if you're in an area where code is driving an air change requirement, if you fail that blower door test, you don't get an occupancy permit. So again, getting it right matters, not only for the system the home as a system operating effectively, but also to get an occupancy permit and not have to rework that system. On top of that, as I've been talking through this, there are some codes and some certifications that require specific air tightness. The residential energy code is not going backwards. It is going to continue to progress, and as part of that, air changes and blower doors are going to be a requirement for most builders as we go into the future. On top of IECC requirements, we have zero energy ready homes. We have Energy Star requirements. We have passive house requirements that all dictate an air exchange. So it's becoming more and more prevalent and more important for builders to understand what the leakage is in the structures that they're building, and be able to have a solution that really offers the ability to dial in or to confirm the numbers that they're looking for. And the last piece of this is customers care, right? With the advent of the internet, we're becoming more and more informed, and more consumers are asking for things like Energy Star or zero energy ready homes. Lead and passive house are obviously pretty prevalent in the marketplace today, but well standard and living building challenge are also becoming more well known and standards that people are looking for their structures to achieve. So there's a lot of reasons that air tightness matters, and unfortunately, before AeroBarrier, there wasn't really a great way to do that, a process that guaranteed it, a process that allowed you to really dial that in. And that's where AeroBarrier comes in. It's a convenient, cost-effective approach to air sealing. It's a one-step process that gets you verified, documented results, saving you time, money, and labor along the way. So real quickly, I just want to walk through the process a little bit to give you an idea how it works. So similar to Aeroseal, the foundational process is the same. We've just applied it to a bigger structure. So as we show up to the space that's being sealed, the prep is really pretty minimal. We can seal structures from rough-in stage all the way to a completely finished house. But if the process is being done at rough-in or first coat of drywall mud, which is the most economical phase, there's very little prep. We prep any designed openings like supply and returns or fireplaces. Maybe there's a drain that doesn't have water in the trap quite yet. And then any finished horizontal surface, we prep. So you can see through the setup here, there's not a lot of prep. Vertical surfaces do not need to be prepped. The process does not coat the house. Similar to Aeroseal not coating the ductwork, you are not going to find a film throughout the house because of AeroBarrier. You could rub the drywall after we were done with the process, and you would never know we were there. So vertical surfaces like windows, doors, and drywall don't need to be protected. You can see in the pictures here, very minimal prep. very minimal setup to get this system up and running. In the bottom right picture there, you can see that we are using a standard blower door. After everything is set up, we'll ramp up that blower door and get an initial leakage reading. If we're comfortable with the pre-leakage number that the structure has, we will start that system up at that point. And we will start to inject the sealant. So the AeroBarrier system, one of the differences between AeroBarrier and Aeroseal, Aeroseal injects at the box with a single point of injection. AeroBarrier has up to 16 injection points that can be up to 100 feet away from the box itself. So we can put as little as 2 nozzles or as many as 16 nozzles throughout the structure, depending on the size, layout, and space that we're trying to seal. As you can see on the picture on the right, the technician sits outside the home. That computer controls the entire process. So that computer is controlling the amount of pressure we're putting on the house, the amount of sealant being injected. It's also actually controlling temperature and humidity of the space inside. And because we are using a standard blower door, it's getting a blower door reading every 90 seconds. So as we're sealing the structure, we can actually dial in that level of performance and guarantee whatever level of leakage that the builder is looking for by the time we're done with the process. So as you think about this, this is a positive blower door test. So we're pushing a ton of air into the structure and creating a positive pressure inside the house of up to 100 pascals. At that pressure, the air is finding or identifying all the leaks in the structure as it's trying to escape the pressurized space. When we inject or aerosolize our sealant, at pressure, those sealant particles float. So they'll stay suspended in the air there. And at that point, air becomes our method of transport. The air is identifying the leaks as it's trying to exit the pressurized space. It then carries the sealant particles to those leaks. And as the sealant particles accelerate to exit the pressurized space, they build on each other until they completely seal that leak. So like I said, the software itself is regulating the entire process. From start to finish, it's controlling and monitoring the seal data. And once we're done, we print out a certificate of completion. So you can see the certificate here. It shows the pre-leakage, the post-leakage. In this example, the home started at 1.09 ACH50, and in less than an hour and a half, we took it to 0.32 ACH50, a 70% reduction in leakage for that structure. So every unit or every house that we seal does get a certificate of completion that looks just like this, showing the results and verifying the work that was done. The one thing to call out here is this is going to vary a little bit from what a final blower door test would read. Because we have things taped off and because of the prep that we do, some leakage is going to be reintroduced to the structure after we're done. So the difference between the final blower door test and us is really about the prep work. You know, when you think of AeroBarrier, you can think of it more as an enclosure test. Because we're taping off the ductwork and the dampers aren't in place, because we're taping off fireplaces and some windows, you know, that leakage is going to be reintroduced when we're done. And when you do a final blower door test, it's going to be an as-built test where the dampers are engaged, hopefully seated correctly. So there is going to be leakage reintroduced. The beauty of AeroBarrier is we can dial in that number. So as we work with builders and understand the leakage that's caused or that's reintroduced due to prep, we can just take the house a little bit tighter to accommodate for that leakage and ensure that the numbers are met and that the desired outcome at the end is, or the air leakage target is met. So there is going to be a little bit of a difference between our testing and the final blower door test. And that's not because the system doesn't work. It's just because there's different, we're measuring at different times within the process. But the nice thing about it is AeroBarrier can compensate for any leakage that may be reintroduced and ensure that a builder is going to meet the target that they want. So to give you an idea of what the sealant looks like, you can see some various pictures here. It creates a nice, clean, caulk-like seal. It's not making a mess over everything. It's not collecting in weird places in the wood or on the drywall. It's only collecting where the leakage path is and where the leak is occurring. This is the best picture that I can give you. The left of the side of your screen is pre-seal. The right side is post-seal. You can see around the edge of that junction box a nice clean caulk-like gray seal. That is AeroBarrier. If you look back in the back of that junction box, you can see where the wires are coming through the punch out is actually sealed. And if you look at the punch out next to that, the one that's not punched, it's sealed as well. AeroBarrier will not discriminate. If there is a leakage path in the home or a leak in the home smaller than 1/2 an inch, it is going to seal it. So we have to take precaution at the beginning to make sure we cover any designed openings or things we want left open. Outside of that, AeroBarrier will seal any leaks in the structure as long as they're smaller than 1/2 an inch. So we get a lot of questions about our sealant, and we've worked really hard to create the sealant that we have today. If you're familiar with Tremco, Tremco is our sealant partner for the AeroBarrier Excellence sealant. The sealant itself is a water-based acrylic, and it's an inert sealant. So there's no chemical reaction occurring to create a seal for us. So there's no enhanced off-gassing or concerns for occupant health after we're done because it is an inert sealant. The other piece of this is it is waterborne. Most sealants, if you look at their ingredients list, they're solvent-based. Because our sealant is water-based, it lends itself to be a little bit healthier and a little bit better for the occupants long-term. It is Green Guard Gold certified, and all that really means is it's safe to be used in hospitals and schools. Obviously, occupants in those environments are a little bit more susceptible to things in the air, so it is safe to be used in those environments. It's National Green Belt standard, so you can get points if you're building to that program. And it's considered ultra low VOC, almost no VOC in the sealant. And again, there's no off-gassing. When you think about a 2,500 square foot home, we typically use a 5-gallon bucket of AeroBarrier to seal that home. Most of that 5-gallon bucket is water. So when you think about the amount of sealant in a wall system, we measure it in grams. It's a really, really small amount. There's not wasted sealant in areas where you don't need it. It's only sealing where the leaks are. So it's really effective, not only from a sealing and time standpoint, but from a material usage standpoint. So we're adding very, very little to the overall wall system while still achieving really, really significant results. And then, as you would expect, it meets all the ASTM and UL requirements for flame and smoke spread for products like a sealant. So that's the end of the presentation today. I know we went through a lot of things pretty quickly. If you have questions, please feel free to drop those into the chat box. We'll be happy to answer some of these questions here in real time. And if we aren't able to get to them, we can follow up with the group afterwards. I know we also have a couple poll questions. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes, I believe there's 3 or 4 questions that we're going to ask. And just filling that out for us so we get an understanding of everybody on the call here today. With that, I'll pass it back over to Billy, and we can start working through some of the questions.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So I will go ahead and launch this first poll just to collect a little information, and then we do have some questions on here. Starting, I guess, chronologically, we can go down this list. Jared, this one is from Oleg. There are a few in here. Is it possible to use your product in a large multifamily existing building to seal ducts?
That's a great question. Yes, it is. So the same thing. We've got a number of contractors that are utilizing it there, whether it's new construction, occupied, or rehab of a property. But yes, it absolutely is. A lot of them are doing the cleaning and sealing of the ducts if it's an existing property. But it's great for that. And there's some, if you look at a project like that, there's some benefits to the efficiencies of doing multiple units. They're finding that it saves so much more time, probably around 3 hours or less per unit, depending on the size. I'll say that, depending on the size of the unit itself. But it's perfect.
Awesome. He also asked, can you talk about some of the procedures? I know this is one of the questions we typically get with the procedure for cleaning the duct ahead of time. Is it a requirement? Is it a recommendation? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a great question because definitely the leakiest ducts are most often found to be the dirtiest ducts too. So the kind of the rule of thumb here, what at Aeroseal, you can seal without cleaning the ducts if there's that minimal dirt or junk in there. So under 1/8 of an inch, right? If it's over 1/8 of an inch, not only do we not, or do we only also suggest that, but NADCA, the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, that's kind of their rule of thumb as well, is before sealing something that's very dirty, you would want to clean it for two reasons. One, it's the right thing to do, but secondly, we want to make sure that the sealant gets into that leak point where the dirt is probably accumulated. If the dirt's there, the sealant can't get there.
Perfect. Greg would like to know, how does a zone system get treated with Aeroseal? Do the individual zones need to be sealed separately? I know we have the Ys and things like that, but talk a little bit further on that one.
Sure, and that's a great question. So any kind of dampers in the system should be in the full open position, and they can seal through. So you remember I said there's no encapsulation. It's not a lining of the ducts. If you just have all of the dampers open, the sealant will pass across it or by it and continue on down to find the leak points. I'll say this. Oh, and then just actuate the dampers before leaving and wrapping up the job. It's really not. It's not that an issue or a concern as long as they're open. If they are closed, I will say this. Then you do risk that damper developing the sealant along that. It's gonna basically act as if it's a leak point, so it can build up around the damper itself and close it up. So again, it's most easily done just to open all of those up, full open position, seal, and then actuate before you leave.
Awesome. Thomas would like to know, what is the maximum size hole that can be sealed in ductwork? That's part A of this. And then what is the average time from start to finish on a 2,500 square foot home?
Okay, great question. So on the effectiveness of the sealant, we list it as being able to seal up to 5/8 of an inch. So a fairly good sized hole, right? It absolutely can seal larger. The main thing there is it's going to take longer to seal that, and it will also use more sealant. But for the UL testing that was done, they to test it as the same as tape and mastic, that 5/8 of an inch parameter or standard was used. So that's where we mentioned that. It's something that I didn't mention in the presentation too. We guarantee the seal for 10 years, and it's been stress tested, well over that. But it definitely holds true there. And then the second part of that, Billy, what was the second part of the question?
What is the average time from start to finish on 2,500?
Yeah, so if it's a single system home with 2 technicians, existing home where it's occupied, the big thing is it's going to take a couple hours to set up. So that's going to be setting the equipment up, cutting in an injection point, and getting the system ready to go. But there's also blocking off at the register and isolating the equipment, and then some putting down some drop cloths and things like that in the home. What we want to do is it's a protection measure. If the aerosol gets into the environment of the home, we want to make sure that the contents are protected. Along with that, each machine comes with a 1500 CFM scrubber fan. And that fan is set up and utilized so that if the droplets do get into the air, they're light and it's designed to hang there for a very, very long time. But we want that fan to pull those particles and trap it into the filter. So it's a protection measure. It also just shows the homeowner that you really care about what you're doing in their home. But single system, 2 hours for setup, 2 hours for sealing, and then 2 hours for cleanup. So about a 6-hour job on a single system home.
All right. Paul, this one I believe is for you. Matt would like to know, duplex, in the photos you showed, the duplex holes were sealed. Are there any complaints from electricians? And then I guess I'll take it a step further and just in general, the trades that come through the house.
Yeah, most of the time trades don't even know we were there. When we start looking at the electrical boxes and things like that, there's not typically complaints. They're going to pull those wires out and strip the cover back and put their outlet or light switch on those. It's not really going to impact their work in any way. Typically we don't have any concerns from, whether it be the plumber, the electrician, or the painter coming in behind us as a result of the process.
All right. Do we have any case studies? This may go for both. Do we have any case studies for results and cost savings for new construction in townhomes?
Yeah, I can jump in on the Aeroseal side of it. What we do in a more detailed presentation. I apologize, we're covering 2 technologies in here and trying to stay at about 30 minutes each, so it got left out. But yes, we do a comparison between hand sealing, with mastic and tape, and with Aeroseal in new construction, single system home of around 2,000 square foot. You're looking at 2 technicians to be able to do it in about 3 hours. And this is, the ideal timing of that for Aeroseal duct sealing, by the way, is before equipment is set, at rough in with the duct work, because then there's no isolating of the equipment. So you can get in and attach right to the duct. If equipment is in there, it's just a few more minutes to added to be able to do that. But we have contractors that are doing up to 3 homes per day when they're in the same development. And then on townhomes, certainly, I mean, it goes for the same for Aeroseal anyway. It just helps, that efficiency helps if it's all of these homes are in the same development. If you have to travel, obviously there's some travel time in there that may mean instead of 3 per day, 2 per day. And then what I'd like to do, if you're interested, you can comment. We can show that hand sealing versus Aerosealing comparison, and get you the numbers that I think that you're looking for. And I'll hand it off to Paul on AeroBarrier.
Yeah, with townhouses in particular, especially when you're looking at air sealing, any multi-unit structure, sealing that party wall or the joining wall is always a challenge. So from a build perspective, we have a lot of different research and things like that around processes that can be removed or things you may not have to do to ensure you're meeting your air leakage requirement, especially in townhouses or multi-dwelling units. And then as far as homeowner energy savings afterwards, we have the ability to do that. That would be done more on a climate by climate or location basis based on cost of electricity or utilities, and then obviously the climate zone. But yeah, we do have some data from the DOE and other third-party resources that show both savings on the construction standpoint if you bring AeroBarrier into the equation, and also some savings for homeowners on the back end.
I think that kind of leads into this next question too. What is AeroBarrier doing to addressing like fire caulking between units?
Yeah, so AeroBarrier fire caulking is still needing to be done. AeroBarrier does not replace fire caulking. Fire caulking should be in place prior to AeroBarrier's application. Now, we've done all the UL testing and things like that. We have a 0 for smoke creation, a 0 for fire spread. So we aren't going to exaggerate a problem if there were to be a fire. but we are not going to take the place of fire caulking. That should all be done prior to AeroBarrier sealing in accordance with the local requirements in the build that you're doing.
Okay. And then how is AeroBarrier used in large commercial projects like, say, a retrofit office?
Yeah, so we've done everything from small micro hotels all the way up to large office spaces. If you're familiar with Pennsylvania Finance and Housing Authority just redid their entire headquarters. We did that entire project for them and got it to pass about levels of tightness. And what it really boils down to is the ability to pressurize the space. As long as we can pressurize the space and create enough pressure, we can typically seal it. So, we've done women's structures or women's facilities in Canada that were 15,000 square feet. We've done the Pennsylvania Affordable Housing and Finance Authority, and we are doing those on a floor-by-floor basis at about 10,000 square feet of steel. So it's really all about our ability to pressurize the space. If we can pressurize the space, we can seal it. And as we get into larger commercial spaces or larger structures, the ability to segment those structures off allows us to typically seal in more than one setting. So it just depends on the structure, but there is no restriction on our ability to seal bigger spaces outside of the ability to pressurize them.
Awesome. That might be a nice little segue for Jared. Applications in large duct networks, such as industrial applications. Can you walk through that process? And
Sure. So, there's a lot of different environments you get into there, but it's very similar. It is a different piece of equipment, by the way, than what I mentioned with the Homeowners Connect. This system is it's got a separate fan box, whereas the Homeowners residential machine is kind of an all-in-one. But the purpose for that is for being able to get the volume of air that a lot of the commercial ducts are requiring to be able to pressurize. But it's very effective in that regard too. And we have a number of commercial case studies, and they're on our website, in fact, that show, whether it's a healthcare scenario, a pharmaceutical or lab situation, all these different types of industrial environments where Aeroseal has been effective. Now, on the commercial side, it tends to be much more around the efficiency, where the facilities managers are trying to cut costs, and they want to gain the efficiency on the equipment. But there's a scenario that stands out where being able to reduce the fan speed by up to 60%. And if you can look at what doing that across an entire building or several buildings, it really adds up very quickly on the energy savings. So that tends to be the lead in, whereas on the residential conversation today was so much more centered around comfort first, and then air quality, and then the energy savings. But we've got a number of contractors that are utilizing Aeroseal, and I'll share what we're in this environment right now that we're in with the concern of virus and other future issues and things like that. Sealing ductwork so that it's not a distribution system for something like that is very important, and getting that even in negative rooms where they have positive pressure, turning it from a negative to a positive pressure situation is very important for that.
I think we can knock out two questions in one. They're both actually from a guy named Mark, but different Marks. Do you have better results? This one's for Paul. Do you have better results before or after the plaster's up? Then the other Mark, if AeroBarrier is sprayed after the drywall is installed, how does it stop leakage between framing members and plate? So I think those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, Billy, can you repeat the first part of that question? You broke up just a little bit.
So if AeroBarrier is sprayed after the drywall is installed, how does it stop
Yep.
leakage between framing members and plates? Which goes
Yep.
along with, do you have better results before or after the plaster?
Got it. Yeah, so AeroBarrier can be applied before or after drywall, and the big driving factor of that is how the home's being constructed. As I mentioned, the one restriction that we have is being able to pressurize the space. So up in the northern climates, there's a lot more vented attics. With a vented attic with a soffit and ridge vent in place, we can't pressurize the house until the drywall is in place. So we have two options. We wait till after first coat of mud and go after the drywall, or the builder can have the ceiling lid put in place to block off the attic, and we can seal at rough end. To the question, at rough end, we'll take care of top and bottom plates and all those penetrations to exterior sheathing. If we're going to go after drywall, the builder really should before the drywall goes in place, they should be sealing top and bottom plates, because once the drywall is in place, AeroBarrier is not going to get to those surfaces, just because the drywall is going to be pinched up against it. So depending on when we apply, really is based on climate zone and the structure which we're sealing. At the end of the day, there's not a whole lot of difference between rough end or drywall. Rough end actually has fewer penetrations. Once you get the drywall in place, you've created penetrations around every outlet and switch box and every can light. So actually more sealant is probably going to be used at drywall state, but there's not a whole lot of difference in the process. It really just depends on the structure that you're building.
This one probably goes for both of you. Kevin wants to know, in light of the whole COVID-19, are there any offerings or programs that we're providing to help anybody who's interested in the technology?
Yeah, I'll tell you what we do have for on the Aeroseal side. We work with different finance companies, and so different programs with those offer, for an example, an opportunity of payment deferment. So contractors, for example, we've had contractors that were interested in coming on board prior to this shelter in place this is going on, and so they've been able to move forward with a deferred payment option. That's probably the biggest thing that's worked out for us. If that's not something that they want to move forward with, we've got another another finance company that we work with that offers very, very aggressive rates, anything from a 12-month 0%, same as cash option, on up to 72 months. So depending on what the idea is, we can get a very manageable payment arranged through many different sources. So that's something that we, whether it's like I mentioned, the 0% for 12 months, but there's also an option for a 6-month deferment on the payment that a number of contractors have taken advantage of.
I think I can answer this one. Arnie wanted to know if this would be available to pass off to their partner. So yes, this will be recorded. It will be available as soon as the recording posts and shared out automatically to the email. Matt would like to know what level of training on each system is required. The scale that he was providing was rocket science to screwing a light bulb.
Yeah, and I can jump in there. So when you buy either one of our systems, that does come with training. So there's technical training where we'll actually come out to you for both technologies, and we'll do work with you in your market. So whether that's AeroBarrier or Aeroseal, our trainer will come out to you, spend a couple days with you in the field actually doing work, and get you certified to do that work. So that's all part of the package when you buy one of our systems. And then there's additional sales and marketing support that comes along with it. When you start thinking about the two technologies, specifically on the AeroBarrier side, it's typically a 2-man crew. One person that is typically a little more comfortable with computers and software because they're going to run the system. And then the second person is more of a general laborer that's going to help set up and take down. So neither one of the systems I would classify as rocket science. They may be a step above screwing in a light bulb, but we give you all the training and support that you would need to feel comfortable and be successful at applying either of the technologies.
Yeah, the software really guides you through on the aeroseal side. So if it senses that there's an issue, an alert pops up, right? So you'll be, whoever's running the equipment will be notified of what it is, and then depending on what the alert is, it'll actually turn the equipment off or stop sealing, I should say. So Paul's right on. You know, you want someone that is comfortable with that, and then a general laborer to help with the setup.
Awesome. I think I can finish this. We'll do a quick one, and then I have a final question, and then I think we can close up. So are there any plans, I believe this one's for you, Paul, are there any plans to bring this to the UK?
Yeah, as of right now, we're really focusing on the US and Canada. Like I said, it's a newer technology, so we're building out our support network and our install base here locally first. But yes, we do have intentions, and we've got a lot of interest outside of North America. And our intention is to bring that to places like UK and Australia. But it's probably 12 to 18 months out, to be honest with you. We want to make sure that we're able to support and provide you with the resources that you need to be successful. So we're taking it a little bit slower on the international front and focusing here, at least short term, on US and Canada. But if you are interested from the UK or somewhere else, I would tell you 12 to 18 months we'll be ready to rock and roll and get that out to you.
Awesome. All right, so I think this is a good final one. And if I'm reading it right, maybe you can go about it a couple different ways between the two of you. Can AeroBarrier system be easily adapted to provide Aeroseal service?
Today, no. If you think of the two environments that we're sealing, the temperature variations and pressure differences in a duct system are very different than that of a home. So the Aeroseal sealant is more, if you want to relate it to like an Elmer's glue. It's got more strength, and it's able to handle the different temperature and pressure variations that come with the duct system. When you think of a building envelope, the temperature variations are going to be much different and much less. And there's not going to be quite as much pressure as you would experience in duct systems. So the AeroBarrier sealant acts more like a caulk. So today the sealants are different and the machines are different. Can't say that won't change in the future, but as we work down the path, these systems do need to be operated separately, and the specific sealants need to be used for their specific application.
Awesome. We do have dealers out there currently that are operating under combination trailers. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have partners that have both systems. So they do AeroBarrier and Aeroseal from one trailer. Whether that be new construction or retrofit application, we do have partners across our network that are able to apply both technologies. To give you an example, at least in the new construction environment, we're able to do a house with Aeroseal and AeroBarrier to 3 ACH50, which was code in that area. We started about 8 a.m. and we were done with both technologies right around lunchtime, maybe a little bit after lunchtime. So, we can apply and gain some efficiencies when we do both technologies at the same time, but today they cannot be applied at the same time simultaneously.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that summarizes this piece of the webinar. And if anybody out there wants to take a snapshot, take a screenshot, do whatever you need to, here's both Jared and Paul's information if you'd like to reach out further. And if either one of you have any closing words or wisdom that you'd like to share before we go, feel free.
Sure, I'll jump in. So yeah, I really want to make sure everyone understands, the purpose of what we're trying to do here is to share what the technologies do and what the advantages are. And we're not tone deaf to what the situations are. We know new construction continues to move forward. On the commercial side, projects continue to move forward. And in fact, for universities, it's a great opportunity to get in and do work if the projects are still moving forward, because there's no students there and spaces are not occupied. But we realize where we're at right now, what everyone is facing. But these are some great opportunities to consider. When things are start to turn for your business, or if you've got projects right now, we're happy to talk. And Paul?
Yeah, I would just echo what Jared's saying. There's a lot of interesting dynamics in the market today, and we'll continue to work through those. But looking at your business and trying to find different revenue streams and ways to differentiate your business are never a bad thing. And both of these technologies can provide that for your business. So we may have provided more or given you more questions than answers by the end of this. But if you have questions, reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you or have someone on our team walk you through what it looks like. If you want to check out the financing options, we can do that. But don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. We'd be happy to talk to you and walk you through in more detail either one of the processes and see how that would fit in your business.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys and everybody on the call. Stay safe and stay healthy out there, and we will say goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, take care.
Thank you.